Good morning. This is Brian Eming with CMS Wireless. As we continue to take the opportunity to reinforce our core values with safety during this year's safety stand down, one of the additional items we want to focus in on and cover is identifying the associated hazards dealing with leading edges and walking working surfaces, such as skylights, access ladders, and rooftops, and ensuring our team knows the procedures of minimizing or eliminating those hazards. Falls continue to make up the majority of on-the-job accidents. They cause almost 20% of disabling occupational injuries and thousands of fatalities every year. The fact is that most of these accidents could have easily been prevented. In complete belief that these tragic accidents are preventable, a good place to start is pre-planning. Pre-planning is essential when working around unprotected leading edge hazards. When working on a rooftop with an unprotected edge, employers' managers must plan projects to ensure that job is done safely. Begin by deciding how the job will be done, what tasks will be involved, and what safety equipment may be needed to complete each task. When estimating the cost of the job, employers should include safety equipment and plan to have all the necessary equipment and tools available at that job site. For example, on a rooftop job site, think about all the different fall hazards, such as open holes, skylights, and the edge of the rooftop. Then plan and select fall prevention suitable to that work, such as fall restraint, or maybe a warning line system, etc. Good pre-planning can minimize a truck roll, a return trip, to get the right equipment for the job when it should have been covered in pre-planning or maybe even in the site walk. Even more importantly, it can be the difference between someone getting hurt on the job due to poor planning. So after starting with good pre-planning, second is to ensure workers have the right safety equipment and the right training for the job. Employers must ensure all workers are trained on the proper setup and the safe use of all types of fall protection equipment. This training must be specific to address the types of equipment being used on the job site. This training must cover all employees that do any leading edge work or any form of elevated work activities. They must be able to identify fall hazards and know the type of fall protection and prevention equipment will be needed to mitigate those hazards. To protect these workers, employers must provide the correct fall prevention and protection equipment for the job. Some examples are warning line systems, maybe an engineered anchor point, or creating a guardrail system, or maybe just as simple as utilizing a restraint system once the appropriate anchor point has been established. Now, when the install crew arrives on site, performing a hazard assessment is a root of all injury prevention, especially dealing with unprotected leading edges. A good place to start when assessing hazards when working on a rooftop is to identify any unprotected leading edges. Now, OSHA defines a unprotected leading edge as any side or edge of a walking working surface where there is no wall, guardrail system, or stair rail system to protect a employee from falling to the lower level. If the parapet wall on the rooftop that you are working is 39 inches or greater, a harness and fall protection system will not be needed. Now, if it is less than 39 inches, be sure to utilize the appropriate equipment, whether it's using a guardrail system, a travel restraint system, or personal fall arrest system. So with the proper pre-planning and the correct training and the equipment, the competent person on site must ensure that each employee is protected from this leading edge hazard. Other hazards such as floor openings that need to be mitigated are access entryways, skylights, and open holes. Each of these direct hazards must be treated as an unprotected edge and must be documented on the method of protection to avoid any falls from a working surface. Whether it's utilizing a warning line system, adding a skylight cover, or covering the hole and marking it clearly. These are just some options of ensuring a fall doesn't occur. So be sure to document the preventive measurements and communicate it in your daily hazard assessment to your team prior to work. In many cases, a fall restraint system is an ideal method of establishing a form of fall prevention when dealing with a parapet wall that doesn't meet the guardrail standard and is less than 39 inches. Other options and practical methods are using a warning line system. Now, when utilizing a warning line system, what you're really doing is marking off a designated work area. OSHA defines a designated area as a distinct portion of a walking working surface delineated by a warning line in which employees may perform work without additional fall protection. The employer may use a designated area for both frequent and temporary work as long as it is at least 15 feet from an unprotected edge, skylight, open hole, or access entryway. Designated staging areas should be clearly identified with some sort of visual aid such as caution or danger tape or cones. This area should also be documented on your daily job hazard assessment and reviewed again with your employees. Remember that it is strictly prohibited for any employees to cross this line without some form of fall protection. So let's remember all lessons learned with fall hazards and ensure you and your coworkers go home safely. It starts with having good pre-planning to address all leading edge hazards. Ensure your crew has the correct equipment and are properly trained. And finally, and again, know the root of all injury prevention is performing and executing a thorough hazard assessment. The goal is not just to realize that these deaths are preventable, but to have lessons learned and ensure we are all taking the appropriate steps to continue our relentless commitment in safety and ensure all workers return home safely each and every night. This year's safety stand down gives us the opportunity to reinforce our core value and many of our safe practices, as well as addressing all types of fall hazards associated with working on communication structures.